Hi everybody, welcome to Chapter 14, which looks at direct marketing and personal selling, presented by Associate Professor David Gray for Charles Sturt University. So in this chapter, so one of the things that you'll notice is as you go through this chapter, I've made quite a large number of modifications to the chapter to take into account some of the wider implications of the role of sales and also marketing communications. Now, the learning objectives, just to have a look at the reasons for growth in marketing communications, direct marketing, have a look at the role of direct marketing, have a look at the effectiveness of it, some of its advantages, disadvantages, the selling process, and just have a look at the personal selling effort and also relationship marketing in general. So you'll see the overall map, and you'll see so basically we're talking about direct communication with potential customers. So when we look at direct marketing and personal selling, so we know that companies rely on marketing communications, the marketing communications mix and its various elements to move the products through intermediaries and direct to the consumer. So there are a lot of companies out there that believe that direct communication can generate immediate behavioral responses. However, in all kinds of media, there's a cost and capability trade-off. And basically, when you go from the cheapest cost per participant through mass media, the cost per participant rises with specialized media and trade journals and trade shows until you get a relatively high cost in relation to personal selling, and it requires a much greater level of capability from the organizations involved. And so, of course, as you analyze each one of these campaigns, you'll need to do a cost-benefit study to see what the overall expected outcomes are and to whether the investment is justified. When we look at direct marketing, we see it's a system of marketing by which an organization communicates directly with customers to generate a response or a transaction. So we see that the direct response media used to seek a direct response from the consumer, including direct mail, telemarketing, email marketing, and the like. So when we look at the different kinds of mediums used, so we have the interpersonal approach, which is the direct marketing technique is direct selling. Then we could be using mail through direct mail or catalog selling. Even though catalog selling has declined significantly over recent years, we could have telephone marketing, such as telemarketing or through SMS. Radio, television and print, which is related to direct response advertising, television, electronic home shopping, and also internet email, using electronic interactive marketing and through sites such as Google or Yahoo, etc. So when we look at the role of direct marketing in integrated marketing communications, so we see that direct marketing does not operate by itself. It doesn't operate in a vacuum. It could be connected with advertising or public relations or sales promotion or supporting media or personal selling in itself. So basically, it's all the mechanisms that we need to use in order to communicate and elicit business from a consumer directly. Some of the major objectives for direct marketing. Usually, the direct marketer is trying to seek a direct response, and normally the objectives of the program are behavioral change or cognitive outcomes. So we want someone to test drive a new model motor vehicle. We want someone to vote for a political party. We want someone to contribute to a fundraising request. We want someone to request more information. We want someone to ask for a sales call, or hopefully we make an actual sale. And usually the objective is defined as the number of responses as a percentage of all those who were sent an offer. So that's one of the basic ways that we measure the outcome performance of a direct marketing campaign. Now, there's direct marketing campaigns have been used for a long time. Here's one example which Hewlett-Packard conducted for the introduction of a new laser printer. So basically, it's around their LaserJet promotion. So what they basically did was they sent out a direct mail piece to their prospect database. And they also sent a direct mail piece to their existing customer database. They had website coverage. There was electronic emails and direct marketing. They used telemarketing. They used point of sale merchandise in the retailers that promoted HP products. And they also developed a campaign covered in newspapers. So you can see it's not just one individual component. So when we talk about integrated marketing, we have a common message across different kinds of media, all syncing to try and increase the level of sales and access to this new LaserJet printer. Another example many years ago is the Elizabeth Arden Hilary Duff perfume launch, and another good example of an integrated marketing campaign. So there was advertising and advertorial coverage in magazines such as Cleo, Girlfriend and Dolly. There was coverage in the national newspapers when Hilary Duff arrived in Australia and what she was doing. There was a direct mail campaign launched to potential customers. There was live audience and autograph signing at Myers in Sydney. And also the Australian launch was designed to time with Hilary Duff's concert in 3 Australian states. And the new perfume was advertised on Elizabeth Arden and Hilary Duff websites. So it was a very good campaign, very well integrated, using the celebrity of Hilary Duff to increase awareness of this new kind of perfume. So if we have a look at the different kinds of strategies, the one-step approach, basically direct marketing is trying to get an order. So the goal is to generate an immediate sale. And so you might have reply paid coupons, 1-800 numbers, email marketing campaigns to selected people on databases. The two-step approach, though, is where the direct marketing approach is used to for inquiry or to qualify a particular prospect. And it may be that it's followed up with a second medium to complete the sale. So this is also known as permission marketing. Now, some of the strategies which have been used for a long time, for example, direct mail, email, whether there are particular holiday deals, they will go out to selected databases. Then we have catalogs, all kinds of gift catalogs. We see the catalogs also which arrive sometimes in newspapers, etc., and or broadcast online. We have broadcast media, we have infomercials, which often appear on TV, pay TV channels. We have home shopping channels, the print media itself, and also telemarketing and SMS kinds of strategies. So when we look at digital marketing, so we know that the internet can both communicate and we can use it to sell directly. So digital communication is to communicate and to sell directly over the internet. We're calling that e-commerce. So like regular mail, email can be highly targeted, relies on lists and databases. However, it's also problematic because of the amount of spam that builds up, and people don't like receiving all of this unwanted communication unless they've actually solicited that information. So we know we're into multi-channel retailing. It's the e-commerce side of online marketing. and lots and lots of customers are researching their products online but make their purchases through traditional outlets. Let's have a look at an example of the Lexus campaign.
The brief was to raise brand awareness and deliver test drive leads for the Lexus IS range. The campaign focus was on the introduction of two new models, the IS 250C convertible and the ISF performance sedan. The brief required the inclusion of a halo interest in a third model, the standard IS sedan. Lexus set specific campaign targets which included increased traffic to lexus.co.za from 10,500 per month to 16,000 per month for the duration of the campaign. Rich media engagement time of 25 seconds. Overall lead generation target, 1,408 test drive requests. While the above-the-line creative and messaging relied heavily on emotional tactics, the digital campaign had to be far more direct and focus on delivering beautiful visuals and hard-hitting facts in a captivating way. Showcasing three very different vehicles within the same environment was a challenge. The solution was a consistent prism effect that was applied whenever the user switched between the different IS models, showing users the two sides of Lexus that they had likely never seen, convertible and a performance sedan. Flash banners featured beautiful visuals and hard-hitting facts, while rich media banners made use of the prism effect to illustrate the two new sides of the Lexus IS range. Every rich media banner expanded to a nano site, allowing users to switch between models and explore snippets of content, video, images, and sound. The banners drove traffic to the campaign site and heavily pushed test drive bookings. The campaign site mirrored the prism effect. The user could flip through the various models and discover detailed info about them. The ever-present call to book a test drive tempted the user to take the experience into real life. Various videos of the IS range vehicles were available for viewing via all our digital channels. However, rather than just make do with supplied material, we planned, filmed, edited and distributed a making-of video based on the ISF TV commercial. The video attracted a phenomenal number of online views, which resulted in the video being showcased in the media. Email is linked on emotive imagery and messaging, and was sent to both existing Lexus database subscribers as well as various niche opt-in databases. The recipients were able to book their test drives at the click of a button or visit the campaign site for more information. The campaign made use of social media by embedding a trimmed-down version of the campaign site inside of the Lexus Facebook environment. Fans got a taste of the entire campaign before clicking through to the official campaign site or Lexus YouTube page for more. Traffic to lexus.co.za doubled for the duration of the campaign. Rich Media achieved an average engagement time of 78 seconds, some as long as 200 seconds, and 1,420 leads were generated. As the numbers show, the IS campaign was an incredible success. The results delivered were way above the client's lofty expectations, making this their most successful digital campaign to date.
So you can see how all of the elements of an integrated marketing communications program linked with direct marketing can work through the Lexus campaign. How do you actually evaluate the effectiveness of direct marketing? In theory, it's not difficult, right? Because you get some kind of direct response. Whether you get an inquiry, whether you get an actual order, would depend on the kind of objectives. So you can use the cost per order approach, and advertisers use this approach to evaluate the relative effectiveness. Cost per order, for example, if an advertiser targets a $5 return per order in a broadcast commercial cost $2,500, the ad is considered effective if it generates 500 orders. Now, what I've provided below are 3 examples of YouTube videos which help you measure the rate of return. The bottom, the YouTube video is direct marketing rate of return calculation. So they're all, some aspects are common and other aspects are different, but it's something that you need to consider because there's no point in developing an integrated marketing communications program if you haven't looked at the budgetary implications of that program. Perhaps I'll show you the first video and then you can look at the other 2 in your own time.
What is ROI? Congratulations on becoming the marketing manager of this wonderful company. You're nicely settled with your own team and a nice budget to spend on a few ads, a fancy brochure, or even a 30-second commercial. Not to mention direct marketing campaigns, bannering, and of course, social media marketing. Life's great. But what if, after a few months, your CEO suggests you present the ROI of your marketing spending at the next board meeting? Huh? what? Hold your horses. It's not that complicated. ROI stands for Return on Investment. It's simply a measure of money gained or lost on an investment. To put it in simpler terms, ROI is what you expect to get back from what you're spending as an investment. Marketing campaigns are investments, and like all smart investments, they need to be measured to make sure the money was spent wisely. So how can you calculate ROI? There are several ways to do this, but the simplest formula goes like this. ROI is the profit from the investment minus the investment cost divided by the investment cost. This calculation results in a positive or a negative percentage. If a marketing campaign does not have a positive ROI, then it probably shouldn't be undertaken. If one marketing campaign generates a 70% ROI and the other 150%, odds are you'll spend your marketing budget on the campaign with the highest performance. However, calculating the ROI of marketing efforts can be tricky. The easiest part is the investment side. The marketing investment is typically just the cost of the media. But it might be interesting to also include the cost or time invested by people. The exact profit of a campaign is usually more difficult to establish, especially when you're running several campaigns simultaneously, or when your sales process is a long and complex one. In these cases, you might simplify your ROI calculations. A simple calculation is better than none at all. Some marketing efforts are not meant to generate direct profits in the short term, but to increase brand awareness or purchase intent. But even then, it's important to define the right metrics. If you're in marketing, ROI is your friend. Even though many CEOs are convinced that marketing is key to business success, it's still one of the first budgets to be cut when times get tough. So calculating your ROI helps you justify your marketing efforts. The better you understand ROI, the more you are able to continually improve your marketing investments. It will help you to spend your budget on campaigns that yield high returns for your company. After all, making money is what you're in business for.
So I think you get the idea that any direct marketing campaign, any integrated marketing communications campaign has to be able to be measured. And you can have a look at the other 2 YouTube videos, which will help you better understand this process. So with all campaigns, including direct marketing, there are advantages and disadvantages. I mean, one of the big advantages of direct marketing is its selective reach, so you can, and segmentation capability. So you target a specific group of potential customers. You have flexibility, you can do it when you want to do it, it's personalized, the costs are pretty well known, and you can measure its effectiveness. And one of the big advantages also is that you can test. So you might conduct a direct mail test, an email marketing test, and then you can, or you do an AdWords test on Google AdWords, and then you can play around with different parameters and see what the results are. However, there are also many disadvantages, and there's the image factor. People are often sick and tired of getting spam. Sometimes it may be there are inaccurate results, you don't get content support, cost of postage and email marketing are going up. And also there are all of these do not mail registers which exist in many of the advanced countries, developed countries around the world. When we look at personal selling, we're talking about selling through a person-to-person communication process. It's direct, it's personal, and it's in real time. So we're talking about dyadic communications, interactive. And of course, personal selling can be an important component of any integrated marketing communications program. Let's ask the question, how does personal selling compare with advertising in the promotional mix? So if we have a look at the consumer, so we have the conditions favoring personal selling and those favoring advertising. From a consumer perspective, personal selling favors situations which are geographically concentrated, small numbers of people. With advertising, you can have geographically dispersed areas with large numbers of people, which means it's personal selling. It's relatively expensive per contact and per lead to conduct a personal selling program. It's used for technically complex products or custom-made products, or where products have special handling requirements, perhaps where there are trade-ins. Usually the price is much higher than when you have a situation of advertising, and the channels are short. So there are significant differences between using personal selling in a direct marketing campaign compared with mass media advertising. Advertising and personal selling, usually it's designed to help create a foundation for the salesperson. It may be there to generate leads, to supplement field sales communication. It also reduces the cost of promotion because it provides the initial contact with customers. So salespeople don't have to waste their time cold calling, etc. Then some kind of direct marketing program will identify leads for the salespeople to call upon. When we look at the role of personal selling, some of the things that we have to look at are what kind of information has to be exchanged between firms and potential customers. How do we actually do this? How effective is each alternative? And how cost effective is each alternative? And if we don't actually do these or analyze these kind of questions, then we won't really know whether personal selling is going to be attractive or not. If we have a look at the sales force as a part of the integrated marketing communications program, as we said before, the product or service for personal selling are usually complex products requiring customer application assistance, and the channels are relatively short with direct to end users. The final price in selling is usually negotiated between the buyer and the seller. The marketing communications don't have to provide an effective link with market targets, and so we see the selling price also enables an adequate margin to support selling expenses. So you can see that the sales force can be used as a major component of any IMC program. Now, one of the things we need to understand about personal selling is what are the stages of the personal selling process. And this is a typical kind of strategy. We prospect to identify potential customers. We build some information about them. We might have an initial phone call or an email, etc. We approach them. We identify what kind of needs they have. We make a presentation or a pitch to them. Most of the time, customers will have objections, whether it's price, service, quality, brand image, etc. We try and handle those objections. We get commitment, and if we're successful in gaining the business, then we follow up afterwards. That's a typical personal selling process. So if we have a look at the kind of transformative factors used in each one of these processes, with the prospecting process, we might use telemarketing, we might use Google, for example, we might use organizational prospecting. And the selling process, the aim is to gain, establish new customers and then retain them. Okay, so we see that the pre-approach, we collect data from information sources around or support staff. We use database and knowledge management. The approach, we're trying to build a foundation with a potential customer. That means we need to nurture the relationship. And of course we get into relationship selling, which we'll explore a bit later. The presentation format could be PowerPoints, multimedia, team selling, multiple calls, value added, also the use of buying centers. And basically here we're marketing the product. Overcoming objections is just ensuring that we've understood the needs and we try and problem solve. When we close the deal, we're trying to identify mutual goals and how we can add value or satisfy needs to an individual relationship. And the follow-up, of course, is that after we've sold the product or service, we have to make sure that we follow through and maintain a relationship with the customer. In many situations in business to business, it's about organizational buying, and there are often teams of people who do the buying. So salespeople have to focus their communication on the motivations, perceptions, and power of the individuals who make up the buying team. That means they need to have an intimate understanding of the people within that organization and also the buying team. So there are a whole range of proven organizational or industrial selling approaches, and we will review a few of them. One model is the SPIN model, which essentially focuses on questioning techniques. Another model is the what's called the New Strategic Selling Model, essentially developed by Miller Heiman. This model looks at the various buying influences. Another model is a standard traditional HP model, the HP Strategic Selling Model, which we kind of looked at previously. And then there's a value-based selling model. I'm not going to review all of these models, but there's just not one way of selling and not one way of communicating with a potential customer. Let's just have a look at the consultative selling model. I mean, this is known as the SPIN model and was developed by the Huthwaite Group probably more than 20 years ago. And it focuses basically on the customer decision process. And these 4 steps is designed to uncover the need, the degree of satisfaction. Second is to evaluate the options. Third is to resolve concerns. And then fourth is to implement the decision. So it's basically designed to build the value of whatever solution, sales solution you provide in the client's eyes. Now it consists of these. SPIN refers to, S is situation questions, P refers to problem questions, I refers to implication questions, and N refers to need payoff questions. And so basically with situation questions, the seller uses it to establish a context. and they use problem questions to identify the buyer implied needs, implication questions to make the buyer feel the problem more clearly and accurately, and then there's the need payoff question, so the buyer states their explicit needs. And the argument is that if you go through these through the SPIN model, eventually it'll be almost an automatic reaction that the customer will say yes. Now, there are some examples here of different kind of situation problem questions, need payoff questions, etc. For example, a situation question might be, what products and or services do you use now? How many people do you employ? How old is the equipment? Now, one of the things to realize with this situation is that often inexperienced salespeople, not used to questioning customers or dealing with a sales process, tend to focus on situation questions. And perhaps they get to the next stage, which is the problem question. Is your existing product hard to use? Do you have quality problems? So basically, you're trying to identify areas where potential customers are dissatisfied with what's happening. The implication questions are, once you've identified what a need is, then you can say, well, okay, maybe my equipment or the service level is slow, and then you ask the implication question, well, if the service is slow, what effect does this have on the level of output? Could that lead to increased costs? So you're trying to get the potential customer to think through what it's costing them, what their level of dissatisfaction, whether it's a cognitive functional process or whether it's some kind of emotional process. You need to be able to identify what the consequences are. And then, of course, the final kind of question is the need payoff. And you might, for example, if we could provide you with a system that provides a 6-hour turnaround when perhaps they're experiencing a 12-hour turnaround at the moment, would that make a difference? So we know that in the research through the Huthwaite Group, through questioning thousands and thousands of people during sales calls, shows that need payoff questions are strongly linked to success in larger sales. So another selling business buying process is the Miller-Heiman sales approach. And basically, we look at what kind of people are involved in the buying process. And we have initiators, users, influencers, buyers, approvers, deciders. Now, in small organizations, these could all be the same person. But in larger organizations, they're more likely to be different people. For example, you could have the buyer could be the IT person in a large organization. The initiators might be people who are using computers in a particular department. The computers have reached their use-by date. They could also be the users as well, those people that are using the actual software or the computers themselves. The influencers are people who are not actually responsible or don't have the decision-making authority of the buyers, but could provide advice or influence the decision. The deciders are the people, could be the financial controller or the financial people, or could be those people that actually decide to use a particular process. And then you have the approvers. So there are a whole range of different kinds of people in an organization. If you want to read up about it, there's some very nice publications looking at the Miller-Heiman sales approach. So the actual approach itself is to, first of all, analyze the current position. Secondly, to think through alternative positions. 3 is to determine the best position, and then 4 to implement the action plans. Now, I've developed a couple of charts which can help you go through this. And so remember, we're talking about the complex sale, and this is when personal selling is more likely to be used in the complex sale. So the first thing we do is identify the relevant changes occurring in your current account selling environment. Okay, so what's going on in the organization which you're interested in? Are they growing? Are they declining? Are their costs going up? Is the complexity going up? Are they moving to new computer systems, etc.? Then we need to identify each of those, whether they're an opportunity or a threat to the maintaining of our relationship with this particular customer, or to developing a new relationship with that customer. The third thing we need to do is to work out very, very clearly what the most important sales objective is. What are we trying to sell? When do we expect to get approval? And how much do we expect to sell? And basically, item 4 is we're testing what the current position is. It's descriptive. So do we look as if we're a dead certainty to win this job? So we're euphoric, or we're in panic mode. There's no way in hell that we'll ever secure this job. And so we can see at the bottom, right, we have certainty about the outcome, or uncertainty, and it's unpredictable. And one of the next thing that we need to do, section 5, is to identify all of the buying influences relevant to the sale, their type, whether it's an economic user, a technical user, or it's a coach. And we need to look at the response mode of that particular person. So if they're in a growth mode, they want to grow, they're interested in spending money, there's opportunity on the horizon, the market's growing, their market share is growing. If they're in a trouble mode, maybe the competition's heating up, the costs are rising, etc. They're in trouble, and they're looking for someone to provide them with a solution. Even keel is maybe they need it, maybe they don't. There's no direct urgency for them having this new particular product or service. Overconfident is that you find these people in organizations who think that they know everything, they can answer all questions, and there's nothing you can tell them. So the even keel and the overconfident people are the most difficult to sell to. Then you have to ask yourself, well, what kind of degree of influence do I have over these people? Is it high, medium, or low? And of course, there are certain red flag situations. For example, if I've never met them, if the person is new to the job, or there's reorganization, and then I have to decide what kind of response to this red flag. So after I've evaluated all of the buying influences for this particular sale, and I rate them, then I go back and I test the current position. How do I feel? My initial description might have been secure, right, or great or secure. But afterwards I've evaluated my understanding of each of the individuals, then I might start to worry a little bit. And so I need to, in number 7, I need to develop some alternative positions, things which I can do to help improve the sales situation. So this gives you a reasonable overview of the Miller-Heiman approach, and it's based on developing solutions and understanding the kind of people that are involved in the buying scenario. So when we look at personal selling, face-to-face selling, we say that there are these 7 deadly sins: lack of product knowledge, time wasting, poor planning, someone who's really too pushy, they don't arrive on time, the lack of dependability, maybe they have poor behavior, or they're just incredibly optimistic. So which one do you think is the most deadly sin from these 7? And I think the answer is it depends on the circumstances. For example, if you don't understand your product, if you don't have reasonable product knowledge, then the trust or the credibility that you have with a potential buyer will immediately run down. Time wasting can be an irritant, not such a problem. Poor planning can definitely cost you a lot of money. depends. Some people don't mind being pushy, others object to it. It comes down to your understanding of the personality, of the profile, of the social awareness of the person to which you're focusing on. So this starts in most organizational buying situations. We're aiming to develop some kind of relationship with a potential customer out there. And this is when we start to think about the concept of relationship marketing, and we define it as the organization's effort to develop a long-term cost-effective link with individual customers for mutual benefit. It's a pretty broad definition, but reasonably safe in its meaning. Let's have a look at how relationship selling compares with the traditional transactional selling kind of approach. So traditional personal selling, we want to sell a product. But with relationship selling, we're selling advice. Perhaps we're helping them, giving them information, assisting them, and maybe we're counseling them. In traditional selling, we're focused on closing a sale. There's very little planning. We're looking at specific product needs. It's the lone wolf. It's the individual salesperson. We're focusing on the price and the product, and with a short-term sales follow-up. So with relationship selling, you can see it's about planning. It's about solving potential customer and customer problems. It's also usually a team approach, and we're looking at how can we actually improve our customers' overall profitability by looking at the way that we can add value. And it's about long-term sales follow-up, where we're trying to keep a customer for the long term and build that relationship and grow that relationship over the long term. This is a nice model which defines the major components of relationship marketing, and you can see here it was written by Morgan and Hunt as far back as 1994. It's called The Commitment Trust Theory of Relationship Marketing, published in the Journal of Marketing. So it's called the KMV model of relationship marketing, or KMV means key mediating variable. So what happens here? On the left-hand side, we have what we call a bunch of antecedents. So what happens is that in the middle, we have these mediating variables called trust and relationship commitment. So we ask the question, so we have here a number of hypotheses which were evaluated during this particular study. H1 refers to, for example, what is the influence of, say, H2. We'll look at H2. H2 looks at what is the influence of relationship benefits. In other words, what kind of benefits did I get out of the relationship, and how do these relationship benefits influence relationship commitment? So the argument is that as relationship benefits increase, this should lead to an increase in relationship commitment. Likewise with the other hypotheses. As we have an increased level of shared values, should lead to an increase in commitment and also to an increase in trust. As we improve our communication with our particular customers in the relationship, this should lead to an improvement in trust. Now, relationship termination cost has a positive link with commitment. Now, what this means is that it's like in a marriage. Usually, the longer that I've been in a relationship, or the longer that I've been in a business relationship, the more I have invested in that relationship, and the less likely it is that I will leave that relationship. So the longer I'm involved in a relationship, the more likely I am to be committed to that relationship. Now, there's a negative hypothesis down the bottom called opportunistic behavior, and that is negatively related to trust. So what this means is that if I try to take advantage of my customer, and the customer doesn't know that I'm taking advantage of them, and they eventually find out, they'll be very unhappy reduces the level of trust, that reduces the level of commitment, and could lead to a breakdown in the relationship. So here on the left-hand side, we have these range of antecedents, the things which lead to a change in the level of trust and commitment. However, what are the outcomes of commitment and trust? So we say the more committed we are, the more likely we are to acquiesce to a customer's demands. The less likely we are to leave. The more we trust each other, the more likely we are to cooperate. And you'll see here there's an interesting one. H12 is the more we trust each other, the more likely we can have functional conflict. So the argument here is that if I trust you and you do something that I don't like, the relationship will still survive because we live to fight another day. It might reduce the level of trust slightly, but we can actually tolerate more conflict in the relationship. One thing trust does not like is uncertainty. So in any customer-supplier relationship, any personal selling, any direct marketing relationship, we need to minimize the level of uncertainty. We need to, for example, know what the price is. We need to know what the delivery time is going to be. We need to know what the quality of the product or service is going to be. So this is a very neat model and still applies very, very nicely in today's environment as well. As we see, the selling process has evolved over the years, focusing on customer retention and minimizing deletion. It's about maintaining a customer relationship. It's about adding value, solving problems, and nurturing the relationships we have with customers. And obviously this is very critical in a business-to-business environment, because we don't want to lose customers, because it costs a great deal of money to acquire new customers compared to maintain them and retain them over the long term. Some of the typical personal selling responsibilities that occur and the communication process will be slightly different in each one of these areas. For example, order taking, and we have an inside order taker, which could be the sales assistant, and their role could be just transactional. Could be a checkout person or a telemarketer. We have the delivery salesperson or the outside order taker. So we can take the order, we can make it, and we can get the order, which is about strategic customer management. Now, the training required of people in each of these areas will be different. Remember, we're talking about integrated marketing communication. So we want to ensure that the message is appropriate to each person that we're talking to in the whole selling process. Some of the typical personal selling responsibilities are to locate customers, identify their needs, work out how to satisfy them, also to be able to demonstrate the capabilities of the company. Now, close the sale. In large complex sales, closing the sale is not as simple as it seems. It may take, for example, 12 or 18 months in a major contract to actually bring the customer through the sales process. And there might be various stages of closing as you move through that process, and also follow up and servicing the account. What kind of salespeople make effective salespeople? And there are a number of traits. First of all, you have to know what you're talking about in relation to the product. Professionalism, to be thorough, to be results oriented, to be good at problem solving, and to be relationship oriented. And most of these requirements, the skills can be built up or can be trained. Most people can be trained in these kinds of aspects. Easy to say customer focused. Essentially, it talks about here putting the buyer's needs before your own. Now, sometimes that can be difficult, but it's absolutely critical to be responsive, to be a good communicator, and to be reliable. So if we have a look at the advantages of personal selling and its disadvantages, the big advantage is that there's two-way interaction. There's feedback. We can tailor the message. Also, because we're talking directly to the customer, there's a lack of distraction, and the customer's more likely to be involved in the decision process. And also, we can use the customer as a source of research information. So the customer's providing us feedback in terms of how to modify or adapt our products. Sometimes the disadvantages are we can't assume, and this is where we're talking about integrated communications. Sometimes different salespeople can be presenting different messages to the clients unless we're very, very sure that we've transmitted a common kind of theme. Sometimes we can have conflicts between the sales force and management. Personal selling cost is the highest cost component of all sales, because we reach a lower number of people. The reach can be poor, so we need to make sure that our targeting mechanisms in identifying potential prospects or customers is much more effective, because just going out to see a potential customer can take, say, 1 or 2 hours, depending on how far away we are, even if we have to go interstate or internationally. So it's going to cost us a lot of money. And there could be some ethical problems. In other words, what kind of products or services is the customer selling? What about their sales process? What about the customer's ethical stance as well? So when we look at personal selling, we can see that there can be very clear links with direct marketing, advertising, public relations, sales promotion, and the internet. For example, direct marketing could help identify leads so that we can use it to sell on a personal level. Advertising could be used to create awareness and direct leads. Public relations can be used to help the personal selling process. Sales promotion and the internet can also be heavily used to influence this process. So when we have a look at, for example, personal selling and advertising, we can see that for example, Westpac has developed a story bank. Not so sure that it's that well known, but basically it's designed to facilitate Westpac's relationship with various kinds of communities and the goodwill and the money that they provide. There's a YouTube video which you can have a look at. Then we have a look at personal selling and public relations, and there's an example of GoToMeeting, which is kind of an alternative to the Adobe Connect process which we use, and there's a YouTube video which you can watch as well to show you how do we evaluate the personal selling effort. Okay, so it's got to be evaluated. We need to know the cost of personal selling. They're usually high, but also we can develop very high returns, so I mean, the argument is doing the right things, not just doing things right. And that's the old argument of effectiveness, which is doing the right thing, versus efficiency, which is doing things right. And we have to get both right. So if we're not effective, if we don't have the right kind of strategies, then being efficient with a wrong strategy doesn't make a lot of sense anyway. So how do we evaluate personal selling's contribution? We need to have very, very good market intelligence to make sure that we have good follow-up activities, that the programs are being implemented, and in ensuring that the communications objectives are obtained. How do we evaluate the sales results? By orders made, sales volume, margins, customer accounts acquired, the selling skills that are used. How do we look at the sales efforts, the number of sales calls? Now, we have to be careful in a business-to-business environment, particularly for large, complex sales. The traditional transaction-based approach to selling would focus on sales calls. However, in complex B2B sales, the number of sales calls that we make may be no indicator of how successful we are in the end. Then, of course, we need to think about selling expenses, the kind of customer service we provide, and any kind of sales-related activities. So overall, we know that direct marketing and direct response media is growing, and it has grown significantly, and also with the use of Google and AdWords, etc., our ability to market direct to consumers has significantly advanced. Like everything, there are pluses and minuses with direct marketing. We've looked at how to evaluate the performance of direct marketing, how personal selling has evolved. We've looked at the different kinds of selling models and how we can develop a customer relationship approach. So we know that with different kinds of products or services, the role of personal selling varies, how it's important in an overall integrated marketing communications program. We know personal selling can be expensive, but in large complex sales, this may be the only way to actually close a deal. So we can see that personal selling, it's also the responsibility of the sales department. But remember, in some organizations, marketing and sales are combined together. It's only in larger organizations that you might have a delineation, a split. So that's the end of this chapter, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks again.